to do a follow-up from that last video. First thing is first. I got one hand, and I've got two hands. My trip to the hospital, I did get the cast removed, so that's gone now. The second part of this video will still show me wearing the sling for the cast, because I filmed that a few days ago, and I've only had the cast off for 2 days. So does it feel good to move my arm? No. Does it feel good to move my hand? No. Can I twist my wrist? Not yet. Some, but there's some limitations. Body takes a little while to heal. Okay, but the updates. So one is, I told you on the other video that the camera I got might be a little bit sus, because not only was there mockery at the camera store, but I went down to the official authorized Nikon service center, and they said it was legit, that the serial number checked out. So today I was going to set up the camera to use it finally. So I've charged the battery, I've gotten some of the accessories I need, like the memory card. And as I opened the thing up, I noticed that my language options only showed 2. And neither of the languages were English. So I did some research on the internet. If you buy a Nikon, like a modern camera that's like the Z series, if it doesn't have all of the language options, you may have gotten a regional unit. And there's a couple ways that you can get that fixed. One of them is you take it to an authorized service center and you can pay a fee, and they have a way to do a firmware update. But this is one thing that a user cannot do. You can't just download something from the internet or the Nikon cloud and do it yourself. You have to take it to their team. And the other way is you go back to the seller, which is what I did. And so I mailed that back, and I will have that later this week. There was just some mix up, but they have both. And they just sent me a regional one because everybody here speaks Chinese, and Chinese is one of the languages on the camera, so they didn't even think about it. So the camera's okay. Other than that, it was fine. So that's good. I have a little bit of a bad shave right now. Why? It's because it's like a May holiday here. So if I'm not having to go to work, I'm not having to make myself super presentable, I'm not taking out the extra time. It's been a rainy day. The VPN and the internet's been off a lot. So it made some extra time for me to edit and prepare some videos. So I have this video to share with you. What I also have is I'm doing a little bit of a production tomorrow, filming some videos for a friend of mine to use for his training company. In my own videos that I have preparing for you, we are still doing a walkthrough of like a studio setup, so you can see how everything's connected and what I'm using right now. I also have a video I filmed in February, and I did a setup for a 2-person interview. What I set up then, this is to give you ideas for your setup, because what you see for mine may not be the space that you're dealing with, but I'll show you how I came to some of the decisions of where to set the lights, where to set the cameras, how to know which lens to use. And I am by no means an expert. How do you find success? Well, you just have to fail enough to get to the right thing. And that's going to be true with anything that you do, is you push towards it, doesn't work, you evaluate it, you strategize, and you find the path forward if that's what you want to pursue. There does come a time where you meet reality, where you figure out, okay, this is impossible. I literally can't fly without growing wings and having hollow bones. Okay? I mean, there's some things that have to be based in reality, so don't hear me wrong. Oh yeah, so these May holidays, it's a little bit strange. They would almost say it's a little bit like Labor Day, but they call it like National Work Day, even though they have the time off. Now, this is the most unusual thing I've seen. Not that I know all these different countries and the way that they do things, but in China, when you have time off for a holiday, for getting to be off of work and school, then they have like a makeup day. You have to come back on a weekend. So in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, why give such a long holiday if you're going to ask for the time back? That doesn't seem very fair. Yeah, you can travel a little bit more, but the challenge is in China, you have a lot of people, especially where I'm at in Shenzhen. I think there's some areas that are much less populated. But if you go out somewhere now, I already had my experience on the metro where it was so busy, I finally turned around and came back. I was going to go visit one of the parks yesterday, and it was insanely packed. Well, part of that reason is everybody has the same days off. And because they don't get that many days off that are the nice times where they can travel a little bit or have some time with the family, and everybody goes out. So that's the reason the metro is so packed right now. It would never be like that on any other day. So I'm waiting to go to Hong Kong. I'm waiting to go out and do some things I have planned because there's no reason to fight a massive crowd. There's already going to be a crowd, but there's no reason to just take so much longer to do simple things. Oh yeah, point of clarity on that last video. The main idea is not to put yourself in a position of debt. Don't give yourself extra things to worry about, anxiety, stress to handle. Take the time out and plan. Try to plan ahead. Don't just live in the moment. Try to think of what it is you're trying to accomplish and make a plan of how to get there. That's really the main thing. If there was too much financial jargon used, I wasn't trying to be a financial expert. Now this video, the reason I made a separate extension video from that last one is I'm going to go over some things in this video that might be a little more technical, and some of you may not be interested in that. So that's why there's two separate videos, so I could go more in depth, just a little. There's still so much more. I will just be scratching the surface, but compared with some of my other videos, it is getting a little bit more detailed. Okay, so it's time for me to get out of the way so the stuff I already recorded can be used for the rest of the video. So I just made the changes to the cameras. This is the first of two changes that's coming. This is the new Viltrox 1.4 on the aperture. It's an 85mm lens. And so its focal length is 85 millimeters. It's a 1.4 Pro. It's a good lens. It might be better than the other lens I'm using. Now for the second camera, it is using a 85 millimeter 1.4 from a different brand called Kase, K-A-S-E. And I've read some reviews online about each of the lenses, and there are some advantages and disadvantages to both. For video work, that's more important to me. And this is where the Viltrox outshines the Kase on the test that I've looked at. So you can make up your own mind. Now, if you're wondering about the camera body, that's going to be a change that's coming very soon. But for right now, this camera is the Nikon Z5 Mark II. This camera is the Nikon Z6 Mark III. They are both very similar sensor, similar technology. Most importantly for me, the color science. Every company has a little bit different way that the end product looks. So whatever you decide, if you go Sony, go Sony. If you go Fujitsu, or you go to any of these other brands, Canon, it's good to keep the same type of brand between your cameras for a consistent look. Now, if you are excellent at doing higher end things like color grade, you don't need that advice. You could already figure out how to do it. The difference is for novices or people who don't want to spend the extra time to make changes in post to get the footage to look similar, it's easier to stick with the same brand, especially when you introduce LUTs like from Red, Cinema, things like this that Nikon now offers. Well, I know if I have the right model of camera, it's basically going to do the same thing as the other camera. Well, the other change is the second Z6 Mark III is going to replace the standing camera in the studio so that they are both exactly the same camera bodies. The Z5 Mark II is going to be reserved for two functions. One of them is when I am traveling and I just need a Go camera that's not always going to be set up in the studio. Sure, I have my smartphone, I've got a GoPro. These are good to catch moments, but if I want to something I can do more with in post, I would need a higher end camera to capture that with. And if you're an expert out there and you know something better, please share it in the comments. I'm always open to learn. You're seeing a setup with one person now, but imagine having a second person like I'm doing an interview. You have a dedicated camera for each person, and then you have one camera that's grabbing maybe a wider shot. And so the Z5 Mark II would be that establishing and central shot that would kind of be more the scene, where the potentially higher grade cameras and lenses would be focused on the host and the person who is the guest in the interview. So that's what's happening here. And I mentioned I would show you the difference of these lenses at the end. Again, I don't know if you can see the difference. I'm looking right now into a camera that's using the Kase 1.4, 85 millimeter. Over here is the newer lens. It's a Viltrox 85 millimeter 1.4 Pro. Again, 85 millimeters is the focal length, and the 1.4 is aperture, how much light it lets in. So you might see a difference with the studio lighting now. If you are deciding on a lens for your camera body, it doesn't matter who the manufacturer is. Like with my camera that happens to be Nikon, I had to find a mount called Z. Z mount is one of the things to make sure the lens fits your camera. But the focal length, you can walk it out with steps. You can use a tape measure, figure out how far away the camera lens is going to be from the person who is being recorded. And that's how you can figure out what focal length you need. And if you don't know, you can experiment. You can always start with a lens, and maybe it's a 50 millimeter, and you just set it up, and you might move either the person who's being filmed or you move the camera, and there's some happy place where you have focus and it's not going to be blurry. And that is the ideal focal length. If it has autofocus, you're going to get a little bit more range. If it's manual focus, it needs to be a little bit more precise. And I would say if you're doing video, autofocus is a great idea. If it's shooting something that's still, it doesn't matter so much. So I hope that was helpful to you. And keep on going out there, making a difference in this world by being creative. And that's why my encouragement to you is create your world.